Saluti a tutti, and welcome to this episode of Ciao DMV, Italian American Life in the DMV. My name is Joseph Barone, and I will be your host. This podcast channel is dedicated to all things Italian and Italian American in the DMV, aka DC, Maryland, and Virginia. My focus is on the Italian American experience, from family stories to little-known history to businesses to cultural events and much more. Today, I am pleased to share with you an interview with Tiziana Barrow, founder of SaferShift, which according to their website is an organization which turns cybersecurity from once-a-year compliance checkbox into the kind of habit your employees and clients actually keep. From being born in a small town in northern Italy to her journey to the US and eventually starting SaferShift, it is one of constant learning, working hard, and seizing the opportunities when they present themselves. This is something that we have heard before and therefore not a lesson that should be ignored. So, let's get right into my interview with Tiziana Barrow. Welcome, Tiziana. Welcome to Ciao DMV.
Thank you, Joseph, or Joseph.
Either Joseph or Joe. Joe or
Right.
Joseph is fine. Either one is fine. Tell us, where were you born in Italy?
So I was born in a small town called Cornier, and it's an historical town, medieval town, at the foothills of the Gran Paradiso, which is a beautiful national park, literally between the Italian and French Alps.
And what was life like for you there growing up?
So, a small town mentality, one high school, one elementary school. So, it it was a very safe place. However, clearly it was very limited resources. The town was 8,000 people back then. It is about the same today. It hasn't gone anywhere or grown anywhere in terms of population. So it's yeah, beautiful small town.
And thinking back to those days of growing up, um, what were one or two of the lessons that you learned growing up in your hometown that you carry with you to today?
Well, the town was probably too small for my liking. I've always been a very curious person who likes to experience things, and to that extent, I think I was even too much for my parents because I was signed up for all sorts of activities. Like my two younger brothers were quite happily being free, but I wanted piano lessons, I wanted gymnastic lessons. Participated, clearly grew up Catholic. I was Sunday or Saturday, was going to the Sebastiani
Mhm.
Catholic group and played volleyball, did knitting, crochet. I mean, I just been always voracious for things, and a small town did not have what I personally needed.
Okay. So, when did you decide to leave Italy? When did you decide to leave Italy? Why, when, and where did you go?
That's a beautiful question, Joseph. It wasn't that like one morning I woke up and, but I'm
Mhm.
leaving. What happened actually, I won a competition through the bank for being placed in a bank in England to learn English. Now, it languages were not my strength at all. And I was actually helped by one of my classmates then to pass the test. And we both went together to Sheffield, England. And I was actually assisting. a analyst that was looking at the stock market, buying and selling stock. And that experience is what truly changed my world. So I had to go back for one last year in high school. And without telling my parents, I signed up for a nanny agency to be placed to be the following summer somewhere in England, doing au pair kind of work. And but again, I think that there was that sense of uh, smallness and closeness of mentality, and I just really wanted to experience the world. And my parents, my dad ended up getting a high school while I was taking high school, and my mom is not even doesn't even have a high school degree. So, so, I'm the first to graduate from college. For them, they didn't even believe in a woman needing to go to college.
Mhm.
So, it's like once I got out of high school, I was ready to go and start working, marry someone, and start popping out children.
So what year was it that you graduated high school and then went to England to be an au pair?
1990.
1990. And where did you land in England?
Um, Cambridge.
Oh, back in Cambridge. Okay.
Yeah, so I was with a family there. I stayed for about 3 months, and with the help of the lady of the house, I was actually able to apply for Cambridge language school. And so I ended up being um, so after my 3 months in the summer, I ended up starting language school in England. I was working at Newnham College in the kitchen during the afternoon and the evenings, making special dinner for fellas. And definitely my cooking Italian skills helped me out. But yeah, I mean that was just crazy times. It was just I found my helper. She helped me to get into Cambridge. And then from Cambridge, I stayed there for 2 years before I was actually hired by Symantec and moved me to the Netherlands.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you went to the Netherlands from there. And what did you do at Symantec?
So I was hired because of my language skills, long and behold, right? And so I had to give up my studies in England. I had to start all over, taking university classes in the Netherlands. I was in the Netherlands for about 4 years. And because of my language skills, I was able to do technical support. I had taken during high school some coding classes, and so I was able to be analytical and technical in the language skills, and they just took me on and pretty much educated me from the ground up.
That's fantastic. I remember Symantec very well um, in those early 90s. Very, very well. I
Mm.
moved from New York City down to DC to work for a large international bank. It's somewhat eventually into the IT area, and so I do remember Symantec very, very well. Thinking back to those days, you're living in Netherlands for a couple of years. You're moving into the IT field, a very different thing. You probably never even imagined being in the IT field, correct?
Yes,
Thinking back
yes.
to those days, what's one of the things that you learned, something that just kind of dawned on you, something that you learned or still remember from those days?
Um, so it was interesting. I was moved with an, about 6 or 7 other individuals. To this day, I'm friends with those individuals. So that's
That's
30,
that's
30
amazing.
plus, 30 plus years ago. But I couldn't have done it without them because I was technical, but I was really at the entry level technical. And what was really lovely, I think, is the willingness. If you're willing to learn, you're always going to find people that are going to be willing to help.
Mhm.
Because I will often, run into problems that they were past way beyond my level of technical capabilities or comprehension, right? Because not having a technical educations. And so as I said, it really, I call them angels. I had a lot of angels in my career, in my early career, and I continue to. So yeah, that's probably why I learned that you never have to go at it alone.
Yes. And that's very, very true. We had another interview earlier. Same thing. If you're willing to learn, people are there to help you learn. If you show
Yeah.
that eagerness, that desire, that hunger, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, Netherlands, 4 years there. Where next?
Repeat the question
So
one
the
more time.
four after the Netherlands,
Yeah, four
where
years.
next? Four
Yeah,
years there, where next?
yeah, Cupertino, California. I ended up working. So I ended up working for Symantec for almost 14 years.
Okay.
In Cupertino, California, Symantec at the time was in the first campus, in the first Apple campus at the corner of Stevens Creek um, Boulevard and, gosh, I can't remember the crossroad now.
It's okay, but it's
So,
amazing you remember all of that stuff.
yes.
And you have 14 years. So I think I have two questions for you. Number one, you come here. You've lived in Italy, small town, you've then gone to England, you've gone to Netherlands, and now you come to the US. What were some of your first impressions of the US?
So I can, like, I remember a colleague of mine taking me to Starbucks, being so proud of taking me to have my first coffee. And I literally remember being like so overwhelmed by the different choices, like the kind of milk, how hot you wanted it, how tall you wanted it. And it's like I just want a cappuccino, you know. I just want a cappuccino that it's hot with froth, creamy froth, and a strong boost of espresso in it. And it just the overwhelming amount of choices made me feel way in over my head.
Hmm. But you managed. You figured it out.
I have my own
So,
espresso machine at home.
okay.
First thing first.
The, uh, uh, but you stayed with them for 14 years, at least a good 10 here in Cupertino, California. Now, what's I always ask this, and this is a question I go over and over with everyone. What is one lesson that you learned in working for them for 14 years?
So, again, I mean, I change job pretty much every 15 to 18 months.
Hmm.
And I change positions from technical support to order admin to sales admin to um, financial analyst to market research to analyst relations. That's the last job I had. And so again, like that thirst for life, that passion, the solid commitment. I think it really translated into opening doors after doors after doors within the organization. I mean, I learned so much about the organization. And the reason why they were actually able to transfer me internationally without me having a degree was the fact that I knew their financial systems inside out. And so I was ideal for like helping them transition from one financial system to another. That's how they justified it. I had very unique knowledge and skill set. And so they could justify the transfer without me having an education that will normally need to justify the transfer across. And again, those opportunities would have not been available to me if there wasn't that kind of level of enthusiasm, eagerness to learn, to apply, to help.
And you're very lucky. In a lot of organizations, they're real sticklers for you've got to have this degree, you've got to have that degree, you've got to have this set of experience. So you were very lucky that you were able to move and grow position after position and get quite a number of different experiences in one organization. Because many times you go in one and that's it. You're just kind of on that track for that one thing.
Yeah, I think that Joseph, if I can add to that, the determinant factor was the size of the company. So I actually had the opportunity to grow with the company
Mhm.
because, I mean, it still had, I don't want to say a startup mentality. They were already at 500 plus employees by the time I joined them. But I was only number 12 employee internationally. So, um, so that's, like the secret there was able to get into the organizations when the organizations was expanding. And so, there were new roles, there were new responsibility, there were new things to do. And I just raised my hand time after time after time.
That's excellent. The right place at the right time, and you seize the opportunities when they came.
Right.
After Symantec, what happened? You left. Left on your own? Was there a shift in the company? You just decided you wanted to try something else? What happened?
Oh my gosh. So after 14 years with a company, you actually literally go through a divorce because your colleagues become your family, procedures become your way of life. It's like I was so lost. But I did go and work for a competitor for a little while. And then I ended up meeting my then husband and moved to Austin, Texas, and um, and experienced a number of different roles where I applied again, my um, go get kind of attitude.
Mhm.
And so yeah, so I was in Austin, and I had a little girl, and then continued in the iTech. I actually transitioned for a little while and worked for UT Austin for the Computational Engineering and Science Institute, thinking that a university would have been more secure, maybe, or
Mhm.
stable and more uh, um, easy to deal with a young family.
Mhm.
It was actually so much more structured. The flexibility wasn't there at all. So as soon as I could, I turned back into the iTech
Okay.
vendor side of the industry.
So Texas is a very different culture than California.
Oh my gosh.
How did you adjust somewhat? Not at all. You say that this is it. I don't want it. How was life in Austin?
So granted, I was only there for 6 years, but I loved it.
Okay.
I love the heat. I love the speed. I love that um, you could take a dog everywhere. You could take kids everywhere. It was just so family oriented. So it was actually really ideal to go from Silicon Valley, go, go, go kind of speed, see in traffic,
Mhm.
difficulty to get
Mhm.
from A to B, to a very family oriented kind of Southern style.
Austin is a different city. Yes, I've been there, so it is a little different. But the time that I've been there is probably it was only about a year or two ago, as opposed to your period of time. And what period of time was that approximately that you were in Austin?
Um, I want to say 2004, 2005 until
Okay.
2012. I think it is 2005 until 2012.
So you left Austin.
Yes.
Why? What happened?
Oh, my mother-in-law had health issues, and my ex-husband is originally from the East Coast, and from
Mhm. Mhm.
Philadelphia. So DC was the ideal place between Philly and DC, and so we moved here. Um, yeah, and it's really funny. Like we looked at areas around
Mhm.
DC, but
Mhm.
we really like the city because
Mhm.
it really, DC doesn't feel like a big industrial city. I mean, it's really has a pretty unique feel to it.
It is a different place. I myself, having grown up in New York City, coming here, traveling to DC over the years, it is a different place. Different than New York, different than other places. It's a government town, but it has changed a lot in the last 35 years that I've lived here. I
Yeah,
must say, it has changed quite a bit. Some ways good, some ways bad, but that's a whole other conversation to have.
that's right.
You've worked for a couple of others. You had your own consulting firm, and I know I'm going to pronounce the name incorrect, so I'm going to let you pronounce the name of your consulting firm.
Well, so I have two of them.
You have two. We'll talk about one, and then we'll talk about how you came about with the other one.
Yes.
But let's.
So Tilaja,
Mhm,
Tilaja is primarily focusing on go-to-market strategy and consulting services, really helping messaging and positioning and startup to B2B
mhm,
companies.
mhm.
Um,
But you also have another company, and that's called
SaferShift.
SaferShift. And what is the focus of that company?
So SaferShift actually is the culmination of my cybersecurity experience because the industry is so filled with fear. Um, and we are at a very unique time where with AI, scams and fraud being so rampant, to the point it's becoming national security, to the point that the Chinese are actually having call center and they have operationalized the scamming process. It's really scary. And one of the things that the vendor community provides uh, training and provides products that are really targeting the IT and the technical field, but fails to address the HR, the finance, the marketing departments, right? Doesn't speak with a language that resonate to the broader user community. And therefore, it really cuts out the vast majority of individuals. And so my effort there is to really change the narrative from a place of fear, I say, to a place of agency, where we actually get curious about, stranger danger. Instead of calling it phishing, which is a jargon, is a technical term, let's talk about stranger danger. Stranger danger is about not opening the door to stranger or responding to phone calls or emails from strangers, right? So people have collected um, a number of ways to keep safe in the physical world. And that needs to be narrated and connected to the online world in a way that resonates with the average user.
I want to get back to that. I want to get back to this in a little bit. But this idea for your company for Safer Shift, is that something you had been thinking about for a long time? Or was there any sort of incident or something that said, I really need to do this?
Actually, there was probably about three incidents, but the last one was really what triggered me the most. So divorced for a number of years, I joined a dating app and created, my profile. Now, because I've been in the profession for a long time, I do not give out my cell phone number unless I know the person and I trust the person. So created myself a Google Voice, right? And I ended up being in conversation for over maybe 2 months with an individual that turned out to be a scammer. And it kind of kept on asking me for my personal cell phone number. It kind of kept on asking me for different personal informations. And I was like, perhaps once I meet you, we can, just
Mhm.
divulge more information. But since this is just a text exchange, I'm not going any further. So I really kept my boundaries there. And so to receive the question and being asked for an amount of money, it felt I was like, oh, the trust was broken there.
Right.
I thought that there was actually a human connections where really there wasn't a human connection. It was a build up to manipulations
Mhm.
and an extrapolation of money.
But you did not get scammed. You were aware of everything that was going on. You kind of lots of things triggered you. And the reason I ask you this question is, there was this thing going around a while back about someone would call saying they're the police and your son, your daughter, your
Exactly.
mother was in trouble, and that actually happened to me where I got a call one morning, the wildest thing, saying that your daughter was in an accident. And I'm like, oh my God, because I heard this girl crying on the phone. And I said, are you okay? Is everything okay? And and it kind of struck me odd because my daughter, yes, had traveled to New York City, but they hadn't driven. They took the train up. I'm like, how the hell did you get in an accident? Did you get in an Uber? Did you get in a taxi cab? And this whole thing, and finally the person got on saying, oh, I'm officer so and so. And growing up in New York, I knew police officers don't talk that way. And that immediately told me this is a scam. This is one of those scams that you're hearing. And I asked the person, what is the name of my daughter? And he couldn't name the name, couldn't
Mm.
give me the name. I asked twice and hung up. So yes, this whole issue of remaining safe um, is very, very important. But I'd like you to talk a little bit more about this whole issue of the stranger danger. Talk a little bit more about you, your focus on this. What do you try to do without giving away any trade secrets about you, your company, and what you're trying to do for organizations?
Yeah, so I primarily work with either the HR department or the Chief Information Security Officer, or in some times even the IT department, right? If they're too small, they don't actually have a CISO. And really what we are trying to do is we are building specific scenarios so it's actually relatable, the possible incident, like, if they're in finance or if they're, in, uh, in, we really look at creating a culture that promotes security
Okay.
in the everyday life, right? Beyond the email, beyond the phone call. Because it's like, just think about it when, like, when you walk into the door at the office, they always tell you, do not let anyone else behind you unless they can badge themselves in. I mean, it's as simple as that. That's
Mhm.
physical security. And so I think explaining the why of things helps. Putting it in language that actually resonate, it
Mhm.
helps. But recognizing, and there is a number of different companies out here that recognize that, the stronger line of defense is actually the people.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, it is so important. People need to realize they need to think about what they're doing, when they're doing it, where they're doing it, where they're reading their emails, um, what information they let out, who they're talking to at restaurants, or who may be sitting next to them in a restaurant. All of these sorts of things. The human factor is probably, as as much as you hear about all sorts of cyber break-ins, the human factor is probably the weakest or the most important, the weakest piece of defense in a sense. People talk quite a bit and willing to show people quite a bit.
I know. I mean, we refer as human as the weakest link,
Yeah.
where we are actually the biggest assets,
Hmm.
but we haven't really empowered the people in a way that they can step into a role and be the defender of the
Hmm.
crown jewel.
Hmm. And I'm assuming you would do this through various online role play situations, through various tests on a periodic basis, let's say sending emails out, all sorts of various ways, correct?
Yeah, I mean, uh, so there is two ways to engage, right? So one, it's really just building the
Mhm.
narrative and trainings, right?
Right.
The other is really actually getting to the technology and the tech stacks and really understand that there is a bunch of telemetry that it's already out there in the place and can be all pulled in to really understand, which locations, which
Mhm.
department, which, is actually needs the most support to kind of step up in terms of defenses.
Okay. I want to shift gears just a little bit. I've just got one more question to ask you. And
Yes.
this is a question that I ask everyone who was born in Italy but comes to live in the US. And let me preface this a little bit. About 7, 8 years ago, I saw an online interview. I was watching an online interview, and it was a young lady, probably in her late 20s, early 30s. And she generally observed that Italian Americans, people like myself, grew up here in the US, whose parents or grandparents came from Italy, don't see Italy as the Italy of 2020s, 2026. They see it as the Italy of the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even the 70s. And there's no right or wrong answer to this question. But what is your observation of Italian Americans like myself? Because I know I fall into that trap, thinking of it as the Italy of the Mussolini days at times when I talk about my grandparents. What is your observation on that statement of we see Italy as 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago?
So, so I have probably a very like I left when I was very young.
Hmm.
So I really didn't experience much of Italy. So I am going back nowadays and I am actually discovering multiple and different regions, right? I also have young nieces and cousins in the workplace. And so it's really interesting. Um, Sometimes I definitely feel that they are stuck in time. The values of family, it's really strong. I mean, it's the nucleus. I mean, if you were in the marketplace to buy yourself a new car, the whole family is going to chip in to share what color the car should be, the model the car should be. So, I mean, they are a communal, right? They are a communal thinker, and that's how they approach life versus an individualistic way of living here in the US. And also the belief system that here you can be anything you wish to be. So there is a lot of more fluidity in term and recognitions in terms of your efforts and and your abilities to move mobility within society. In Italy is still perhaps because it's a much more older um, society, it's very organizationally, it's not very fluid at all. It's really hard. Like your network, and you're born into like a family, and the family nucleus is really what dictates the level of opportunities that will open up to you. I don't know if I've answered your questions
I think it's more like
directly.
how do you see Italian Americans viewing Italy? Do they view Italy as a modern country, or do they view it still as the pre-war and post-war time frame?
I think Giorgia Meloni is trying to change that.
Okay.
Even just her position and leadership positions
Mhm.
politically and how she's viewed in Europe.
Mhm.
She's probably not very well accepted in Italy with her politics.
Mhm.
However, she is completely changing the perceptions of how people view Italy
Okay.
today. So, y- y- yes, I think there is this frame that they're stuck in time, but it is changing, and I think Georgia is really making a huge dent into that image.
Okay. So, as we wrap this up, how can someone contact you to inquire about your services for SaferShift or your other consulting, or maybe if they have a question, how can they contact you? What's the best way?
Yeah, I am on LinkedIn, and definitely Tiziana Barrow is an easy way to reach me. My email as SaferShift is t@safershift.com, as simple as that, or t@tilaja.com. Yeah, so I welcome a conversation, even if it's a conversation in Italian, or, if they have businesses that they are trying to go to market here in the US, or if they're trying to do the other way around. The go-to-market is definitely a very much international approach.
And they can also contact you through your website, correct?
Yeah, those, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Fabulous.
Safershift.com, tilagia.com, and Tilagia is Tilagia.
Excellent, excellent. So I want to take this opportunity to say thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to speak with me, and I look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully soon.
Yes, that would be fantastic, Joseph. Yes, thank you.
Ciao.
Great fun. Ciao.
Ciao.
Alla prossima.
I hope that you have enjoyed this episode with Tiziana Barrow, founder of SaferShift. Remember, always seek to learn something new and seize opportunities when they are presented to you. And just in case you didn't catch it, yes, I did release an episode with her daughter a few weeks ago. If you're interested on being on this podcast, please feel free to contact me at ciaodmv@gmail.com. That's ciaodmv@gmail.com. And remember, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, please take a moment to like, comment, subscribe, and or share with a friend. This is Joseph Barone, your host, signing out. Ciao, DMV.